Well, hello there. It's about that time, tarot for our times. And tonight it's all about hunter love. Now, I have foregone the usual death or the moon card in my thumbnail. So I have Hunter Biden as the Knight of Swords. And to me, the Knight of Swords is about someone who is really spreading the word. And he, like most knights, he's a very courageous person. And the thing is that everything bad that has happened in his life, especially the in the drinking and drugging days, it's all out there. He has everybody knows everything about him, or enough about him that even if there were some more dark deeps out there, I mean, what difference would that make? So he is not afraid to express himself, and as I say in the thumbnail, he is the knight of taking no prisoners. So this pretty much began when I think months ago, when he talked about Melania and her Epstein connection, and she threatened to sue him, and he's on being interviewed and saying, "Yeah, bring it on, let her sue me." And I thought, I think I'm in love here. And the thing is that she backed down, because he's got a law degree, and you don't have to have a law, at least I don't think so. You don't have to have a law degree to know that that when you decide to sue someone, deposition time under oath. So that in itself is enough to scare someone off. Now, the one thing that I've been curious about it being in recovery myself is how long, I'm just, not that it makes all that much difference. I was just kind of curious as to how long his sobriety has been. It's been 7 years now. It's a respectable amount of time. And I know that before he got to that, he was kind of like in 30-day wonderland for a number of years with a number of relapses. And yet he got he finally got clean and sober. And crack is it's worse than heroin. It's more addictive than heroin. It's the hardest thing to get off of. Fortunately, I never got that far with me, but I do appreciate the fact that that's a very difficult addiction, and to have 7 years is amazing. And people will say, well, he could go out and do it tomorrow. I could go out tomorrow. Nobody's guaranteed anything. He could get run over by a bus. I could get run over by a bus. So that's one of the basic philosophical things about recovery, is pretty much living it like day by day and in the moment. So I do have to say one thing about this, because I think there are a whole lot of us that probably understand him better, being recovering alcoholics and addicts. Is that he's got that kind of honesty that I can tell you from going to my share of AA, and I think I hit a few NA meetings, that that kind of honesty is not appreciated in all kinds of meetings. In fact, believe it or not, you'll hear a lot of bullshit in AA meetings, and you start to realize that. And I found a group of meetings that were for atheists, agnostics, and free thinkers, which not only got away from that whole religiosity of the steps and the higher power and all that sort of thing, but people they talked about more real shit than the more mainstream mediums. I mean, they talked about, and I've mentioned this, about sexual abuse and all kinds of, stuff that had those been brought up at other meetings. I've seen people, that's why I kind of got turned off for them, is that I saw people being interrupted and put down and said, we don't talk about that stuff here. So I could really, really picture him having been at the meetings that I used to go to in Seattle, and that's where I got my real sobriety and recovery. So I did. And the whole driving force of what he has to say is that, because I saw him interview, I thought, oh, good, I'm going to do a video about him, and I saw a recent interview pop up with him, and what he said about, the people capitulating to, who, to cankles, in all branches of government, is really fear driven. Their fear about what he's got on them. And of course, a lot of this goes back to Epstein. But, the thing is that his checkered life has been so publicized that there's really no one can hurt him. And I guess that's what I've been saying in so many videos, is like, once you put your dirty laundry out there, no one can hurt you anymore. Now, there's certain things that, and I can understand there's certain things that you may not want to be, to have exposed, but there's lawsuits and that sort of thing. And I know that there was a lot of controversy when his father pardoned him before leaving office, which I completely defended that. And there's one of the Gen Z, podcasters that I used to listen to along with Adam and the rest of them that criticized Biden for pardoning his son. And he caught a lot of flack. He caught a tremendous amount of flack from that. And I think I made one comment. I said, that shows a total lack of compassion. It's stupid. I'm done. I'm out of here. I unsubscribed from him. And he only once in a while does he pop up when I'm scrolling through YouTube, because none of those other young guys said that. And I don't want to mention his name because there's so much, we don't need to have infighting, but I think those that saw it just said, I'm done with him. They left him, and that's it. So, and the thing that upset me about that is that, and well, of course, more was revealed, but I kind of knew it all, that when you see the first family now, all the grifting, the conning, all this Middle Eastern dealings, all of that, it pales in comparison to what Hunter Biden did. And he said, I did this, but I didn't do that. That I did this, I smoked crack and did this and that and screwed hookers and, but I did not use my father's position for making deals in Ukraine. Okay. So, I pretty much take him for his word. And, when you look at the other family and the namesake, who, at least Hunter's in recovery, while the first namesake isn't exactly. Okay, so there's a whole lot of hypocrisy going around with this Hunter Biden thing. And I would say, with all those pictures, and we don't have to say what kind of pictures they were, all this sort of thing, he really took that with a lot of grace and a lot of class. I don't know if I would have if had I been in that position, because it's embarrassing to think about it. But once you've been embarrassed so much, you're not going to be embarrassed anymore. So let's see, I did take some notes. So I really want to see, what's going on with him, because he's gotten to be very vocal again, and I think that he does have a very good lesson on, it's not only the redemption of turning one's life around, but it's also like once you've put it all out there, there's nothing anybody can do to you anymore. So, and then I also got to the point of, the guy has suffered, he's really suffered a lot in life. And what would have been, and all of this taking the plea deals away, it wouldn't have done him or society any good to have locked him up. So I want to pick a set. So we have Biden as the Knight of Swords. So let's see. Well, and of course, the Moon and the Death card. That's all in there, because I would say with his, when you go through addiction, it is the Death card, because you get to the recovery point and hitting bottom, and it is like a death. I've been there. It is like, a big part of you dies, and then the Moon, it's all of that, all that stuff that goes with it. So let's see what our secondary card will be. This is a good one. It's the Two of Wands. It's the looking at the future and knowing that, there is a lot out in the world, a lot of, in spite of everything, a lot of the good in the world. And it is taking a look, the globe is taking a look at the very big picture. And of course, the rod is about inspiration and, helping others, because one of the big things about recovery is helping people, which is telling your story and letting them know, hey, I've been through this. We've all been through this. So I do want to do a reading about what's going to be happening with him. I've even heard Tennessee Brando. I just love that guy. I love liberal Southern men because it seems so incongruous. But Tennessee Brando, it was talking about Hunter Biden, and he was saying, I think I'd be on board to be Team Hunter for president. Well, I don't know about that, but I find it interesting that it is even being put out there. But I thought, well, that's an intriguing thought. I don't know. I don't know that if he's thought of it, but at any rate, and he's, now he's doing his art, and I guess a part of his plea deals and stuff is that maybe maybe he's been suspended from practicing law. I don't know if he's been completely disbarred, but he makes it very well known he is not practicing law right now. And that may change. But at any rate, so let's see where he and we are in relationship. Well, isn't this interesting? I have him as the Knight of Swords. Now we have him as the King of Swords. And it's interesting because the King of Swords is also, the Kings and Queens of Swords are lawyers and judges. So, and they're very, very bright people. And I think that maybe part of the tragedy of him was that he was such a bright guy that got down the rabbit hole of addiction and alcoholism and all this sort of thing. But this, but this is also about, he's careful about wielding the sword. So, well, I think we're going to hear a lot from him, still more from him. So, let's see what the energy is around him. Oh, the energy is the King of Cups in reverse. And this is a message for him and for all of us that have been been there and into recovery is the when you get court cards with the cups in reverse, it's about mental health and about substance abuse. So it's always the whole thing that the possibility is always there. It's something we may not think about. I don't think about every day like, oh, I'd like to have a drink or pop a pill or something like that. But you kind of in the back of your mind, you know it's there. So, and with time, you're pretty much ready for it. But this is saying basically, today I cannot do any booze or drugs or anything like that because I'm an alcoholic, an addict, whatever. So that is continuously on his mind, and I'd say it does a good example for others. And it isn't only that, there are a lot of you out there that have gambling thing or eating disorder or sex or whatever. So to know that it is there. So let's see, the underlying thing is the Queen of Swords. I think he's in a decent marriage now. I'm not sure. I think he is. And having someone on the same with the equal intelligence, not that they're going to fix you, but it helps to have a like-minded, intelligent person in your corner. And the whole thing is the realization that picking up a drink or a drug leads to some very bad things, and that this is about walking away. And cups in reverse, I would say substance abuse. So in this case, it is walking away from the substance abuse. I would say one good thing that he could really do, and I'm sure he is doing indirectly, the people that are out there suffering, is that he could, this guy he had some real problems that this has probably helped some people, inspired some people to get clean and sober, to get some recovery. Or if people are feeling really down, saying, wow, if this guy can cope with all he has being a public figure and all those Nazis wanting to throw him in jail and everything, to stay clean during that, it says to people, well, I can stay sober through whatever I'm doing. So he does serve as an inspiration. Okay, so in the opposition of this, we have the interesting, the Page of Swords. This is sort of like coming up with all the ages of human development in swords. So in opposition is I think we all have to, that's a very young card. And to me, in this case, what it is saying is, though, somebody may be born very bright, but emotionally, it's a reminder that which is something I learned in AA that I found always very, very interesting, is whatever age you started drinking or using, or both, to excess, is the age your maturity starts. So I got really toasted when I was 19. So that's what I was emotionally, until sobriety, therapy, and all that sort of thing. So there's always that younger self. That's always the younger self we try to take care of. I guess it could be the child within and all that, stuff. So we've got that going on. So let's see. So on the conscious level, we have it's seeing the obvious, that I would say that he gives a good example, like, I'm good as long as I don't pick up the drink or the pipe, that kind of a thing. I would say that Secretary of Health might want to learn that lesson, but that could be a whole other reading. I could honestly say, as far as he goes with the raccoon penises and all that stuff, is that, I've also, said, well, maybe he is using again. I would almost think I'd rather see someone that does that kind of thing, that they're high doing it, because cutting off a dead raccoon's penis when you're not high on anything is truly scarier, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so it's seeing that life is okay as long as you keep, and you're going to be surrounded. Life is such that you're going to be surrounded by people drinking, but it's sort of like, it's a reminder to keep it at a distance. And then on the subconscious level is to know that the way deep down inside, in spite of all of these things, we have the King of Swords again, is that we have this, strong intellect to keep that sword steady, and that perhaps maybe we're a little bit brighter in a lot of ways than we give ourselves credit for. So I would say, when you see kings upright, a lot of it is about self-esteem, but in different, like with the swords, it's having self-esteem as far as your intellect and communication goes. With the cups, it's like being emotionally stable. And then the rods, it's about, you can inspire people. You've got that spark. So let's go to the past here. And then we have in the past, the Six of Pentacles. Oh, Six of Pentacles in reverse. So that's it's kind of like shady wheelings and dealings. And it's very interesting. Never read the book, but I've seen that guy that wrote the Freakonomics, that's saying that in the underground drug culture, you learn a lot about capitalism, but it's in a very kind of upside down, mixed up way. But it does have certain basic economic principles, but they're not exactly going for the highest and the best in commerce. And it's also about, getting the money, doing one hand washes the other, getting the money to support the habit. So your whole life is centered around feeding the addiction. And that's where, that kind of weird commerce comes in, but you learn a lot from it, believe it or not. So that's in the past, and that's something that needs to be kind of unwound. And I believe that, because of the life that Hunter Biden had, that it would be an easy thing to accuse him of some shady dealings with the Ukrainians, which I don't believe really happened. But it's an assumption that people can easily make it and be mistaken about it. So in the present, we have, right now we have the corrupt family, the family fortune that is corrupt. This is all of the stuff that the whose family is doing with Middle Eastern, and Albanian islands and all this sort of thing. And the Hunter Bidens of the world, they have no problem in calling it out. I would say what this tells me is that I can't get enough of Hunter Biden, because, he is not afraid to call all of this stuff out, because he sees what is going on right now. I think he's a good tale for those people in the media. They've got to be more like him. Have the facts. And his law background is very, very good at getting the facts and making the argument. So maybe he belongs in running the news. That maybe instead of maybe running for president, running the news. I would say that there are a lot of great possibilities here. So along with that, I want to get a little bit of a deeper dive. So we have interesting that all these cups have been coming up in reverse. It's very interesting. The Two of Cups in reverse, which is about not being compatible emotionally with something that maybe you were, but it isn't. So it kind of makes me wonder if all of this art stuff is, having it by the Ten of Pentacles. I'm sure that in the using days and what led up to them, that I would say that what a lot of what he did depended on the payday aspect of it. Where now not so much, because he's saying he's making, which in his world too, I would love to make 200,000 a year. He said in his world, in the world of politics, it's not about it's not a lot of money. So I have to wonder if he's perhaps thinking that maybe the law worked for him for a while, but maybe he's questioning that. Also, a very, very interesting thing he said in this interview, and it goes up with his father and himself, is that he was saying that his father, Joe, was a pretty honest guy in politics, because he was not part of that cocktail party inner set that of Congress and everybody in government. He wasn't compatible with that, and a lot of them. So he wasn't in on a lot of the corruption either. And so Hunter is saying pretty much that was his experience. Now he went into a whole different world that may be a lot behind his substance abuse and that sort of thing. That he made a very important point is that these people, so many in government that are coward, they kind of cower at the name of, Cankle's McTaco Tit's real name is that, because they've been in that inner circle, and a lot, not all, but a lot of them have been involved with corruption, because this Ten of Pentacles in reverse, it's the criminal family, it's corruption. So Hunter was saying that his family was just never on board with that, because his father was always on the train to Delaware at the end of the day, instead of slamming them back with the other politicians. There's also a whole thing, like a lot of people that are that are alcoholics say that even before they started using, it's kind of like they felt like they didn't fit in. They were sort of different. And that is one thing at meetings I remember hearing a lot, and I remember identifying with that a lot. So this very interesting dynamic here as to why that so many people are capitulating, because they've gotten themselves pretty deep into this world. So okay, so let's moving on to the future. We have the King of Pentacles in reverse. I think that brings us to really, really interesting, because this follows right after the Ten of Pentacles. We have the King of Pentacles in reverse, which I've been saying in this reading is our very own Cankles, who is the corrupt king. Because this is, Pentacles with these court cards, they are about corruption and graft. So what this is telling me is that there's going to be more attention that he is going to be putting on you know who, because we really need to. And this is also about health. So this is also about losing physical and mental health. And as this becomes more apparent, people, if Hunter was a little boy in a story, he would be the little boy in the crowd that screamed that the emperor had no clothes, and then make everybody know. And the Hans Christian Andersen, he would be screaming that when no one else had the nerve to do that. So here we have our good old King of Pentacles, and it's about people involved with Epstein have really got some mental health issues too. So there will be more attention as Biden gets better and the king wannabe, is getting worse. So you'll be hearing him more, and he will be bringing out some stuff that you just can't ignore about him. You can't. So going a little bit more into the future, we have, the Hermit. And the good thing is that people like that, and I've had some experience of, like they're the lone voice in the wilderness. The Hermit in reverse is saying, as they start to make more sense and people realize this guy is sober, we know everything about him. He has nothing more to lose. He's not so alone. As he shines the light and says, you watch out for this thing here, or it's poisonous, it's going to bite you, more and more people get on board. So it really comes down to the whole thing. Oh, you can hear I can't believe it. With all the rain, I guess the Pirates did play tonight, because I'm not far from the stadium, and they always have the fireworks at the end of the game. They lose, they win, they have the fireworks. But anyway, so we have the Hermit in reverse, and I think he's starting to realize he's not so much alone, because people, at least in the alternate media, they want to talk to him. They want to. He's got quite a bit to say. So it's not like, oh, here he is, this stoned screw up and everything. So yeah, this is looking really, I like to see that he's going to have more influence, because I'm on Team Hunter now. I will really tell you. So let's see. Let's go out a little further to as we get near the election time. Okay. Interesting. He's coming across as the Knight of Swords in reverse. Knight of Swords in reverse is someone who gets a little bit too, that may be saying things that he may wish he hadn't said, whether they're true or whether they're not true, because I'm not seeing this as the lying knight, but to say that we all have our character flaws, and as his fountain of communication comes, it could be a family trait, because there are things that have come out of his father's mouth that he go, whoops. I don't think there'll be gaffes. I think there'll be truths, but they're going to be painful truths. And maybe not only for the MAGA people, but maybe for some of us on the progressive end of the scale. So let's go and see what our hopes and our fears are. But it's going to be true. That's what I'm getting from this. It's going to be true, and it's going to be like, ooh, I can't believe you said that. But you know what? There may be something to that. And I've had to struggle with that myself, and I think, like, okay, it came out of my mouth, it's true. Maybe you apologize, like, I know this might have been hurtful to hear. I didn't mean to do that, so I'm sorry if I did that, but it's true. Okay, so in the hopes and the fears, we have Interesting. We have the lovers with their little not get banned from YouTube swimsuits on. So the lovers in reverse. I think the hope and the fear is that a lot of what's been going on here is that this is like Civil War stuff. It's like since you know who came down that escalator. Um, we've been really divided, like never saw in my lifetime, and I've been around for a while. Is that families are divided. I see all kinds of stuff on YouTube about, oh, she left me and took the kids and the guy's wearing his red hat, and I thought, yeah, I would too. And so I would say, as we get the more courage to be honest, the hopes are that people leave the toxic relationships, because I think a lot of this is a toxic relationship. But the fear is that more division. There is a fear of more division going on, and it's a valid fear. But I would say a lot of that is going to come along with that sort of communication being wielded and people hearing stuff they don't want to hear. So then, okay, so as far as people like Biden go, and believe me, if I went to a meeting, I'd love to hear people like, even if whether I agree or disagree with them, I the honesty, then the passion that with they speak, it's refreshing. Okay. So, how he and those of us like-minded people see ourselves is getting ready to spring into action. And maybe we're starting to see ourselves maybe thinking a little bit before speaking. Maybe that's like how we see ourselves. Maybe he feels like, oh, they think they think I'm running off at the mouth. That's my restrained self. When they really hear me running off at the mouth, which I can so identify with. Okay, so how the rest of not people like in the U.S., but I'm seeing like the overseas crowd. Now, how do they see him? The rest of the world sees, because they can't stand us because of the orange one. Okay, so the rest of the world, I think they're seeing as someone that could have a renewed passion, a new beginning of passion to light the fire under the Democrats, to say, because I think he's setting an example, like being nicey, it just is not the answer. It just simply is not. When they go low, maybe we don't have to go truly low, but we can't do that, go high. Bless Michelle's Obama's thing. That, it didn't work in 2016. Apparently it didn't work this time, but not to go to the bottom of the swamp, but to get in the mud a little bit. And I think maybe they're saying, like, if there's any hope for the Democrats doing that, that could be Hunter Biden. I also get a sense that it's, if we're really honest and upfront with people to a reasonable degree, that what do we have to fear from us? If I see someone from college, they know that I drank like a fish and everything. So why, but I don't anymore. So why would I, fear about what people back, so many years ago think about me? So let's see. In conclusion, we have, this is looking out at the future. I think in a few months, all of this stuff that he's saying is really going to come in and possibly go mainstream. And I think it's good. And we can carry that in our personal lives too. It's like, just like not putting up with any crap from people and being very honest and saying, yeah, you want to do this, bring it on. So the energy with that is, oh, some things are just non-negotiable, okay? Some things are just non-negotiable. And then we have, our card of the year, the moon. It's like, really the integration of our feral and our tame selves. And, on that path to the pillars. And it does mean going to some very dark places. I always think of that. Whenever I look at this card, I always think of that episode of Star Trek where Kirk is split into his authority, into his leadership, but he's sort of like a nasty dictator, but his compassionate thing where he's lets everybody walk all over him, and I think it's maybe Spock who says he cannot be just one or the other. The integration of those qualities is what makes him the great leader and the captain of the Enterprise. So that's what this card always reminds me of. And it's also like, yeah, we've met our, we faced those demons. We've hit bottom. There's not a whole lot that, can be done to us that we haven't done to ourselves. And then let's see, then we have really the balance thing. And I would say this was my Joe Biden card. And I would say that I like the way he speaks about his father. He knows the differences, but I think he wants to emulate the compassion that his father has. But it's just to do it in a different way. So I don't think there's anything more to be said. I think that he's been seen as an incredibly flawed person, and it's been out there for the whole world to see. But he's certainly maybe not a perfect person, but Hunter Biden is, I think he's an example, because here I am, my warts and all, and actually embracing them. I think that's why I have really come to admire him. So I would say, keep an eye on him. He's going to be the one to watch, and he's going to be the one to emulate as far as, getting out there to work on these primaries and the election coming up in November, but certainly in our personal life, because he could not do what he's doing now until he had gotten his own house in order. And I think that's a big lesson. And in fact, the one thing that the British media, and I didn't think I could make this comparison, I think the thing that the British mediums over at Arthur Findlay and the Zwanenhof said, and, and the late Janet No Havoc that set me on that path to go overseas, a wonderful evidential medium that said, you really need to get your own psychological house in order. No one's ever going to reach perfect mental health, but you've really got to be on the path. You've got to be on the path of getting your own house in order. And, if you need to get she used to say, if you need to get the therapy, get the therapy. But, and I would say, well, of course, and for those that are out there suffering with addiction and that sort of thing, first, get yourself straight, get yourself clean and sober. And then if you need the therapy, go get the therapy. And in that way, you're much more useful to yourself and to society. And if you do what I do, it makes you a better medium too. So who knew that Hunter Biden could have that lesson as well? But he really is like the most out there, upfront example we have of that. And that whatever you do in life, you're going to do it better when you get your own house in order. So I don't think I'm done with him yet. So at any rate, till the next time, I'll see you. Bye.